Yo, what's going on, guys? My bro here. I'm gonna try to quickly get my reaction of the college football playoff rankings. Right now we just got the first few rankings. Number one is Michigan. Number two is Washington. I think that's self-explanatory. Um, you could have made the argument that Washington would be number one, but no. Um, So, yeah, here we go. Getting it in right now. So it's Michigan, then Washington. Texas is number three. Georgia is number six. So it comes down to Florida State and Alabama. This will be very interesting to see how it all goes down. Um, yeah, it is. This is just going to be good. I'm trying to watch it here on my phone because for some reason on my computer it wasn't going. I don't want to get any copyright or anything. So let's see who number five is. Let's see who number five is. It's Alabama. Oh my. Alabama's number five. No, I thought that was going to be number. Alabama's number four. Alabama's number four. I thought they were going to say that was number five. Bama is number four. The committee, you cowards, could not leave out the SEC. That, oh my gosh. This is my straight up live reaction right now watching it. Okay, let's pause these guys for a second. Going into this, I was watching a little bit of these guys on the panel on ESPN. I mean, I don't really know how much they exactly know, but they were saying that an injury like Jordan Travis matters just as much as a head-to-head or a conference championship, which, like, that, to me, I don't think you should weigh these exactly the same amount, honestly. I really don't think you should. So here, let me go check because it should be live streaming right now. I'm also going to be recording this as a kind of recording for the podcast. But that is insane. Alabama gets in. They'll be playing Michigan. I think that one's the Rose Bowl. And then Washington and Texas is the Sugar Bowl. So honestly, I'd give maybe Texas the advantage there just because they're closer to home. Let me check and make sure that this is all good and sturdy. But they don't put in a 13-0 Power 5 champion. Let's take for a moment how much what that really means. A 13-0 Power 5 champion is not in the playoff. They could go 14-0 and not be in and not be a national champion. This isn't even like a group of five team like UCF being left out. This is Florida State. Florida State, a powerhouse program. Florida State, who has won a championship kind of, I guess, in the last decade. They've made the playoff before. And I guess the committee just said, hey, you lost your quarterback. You're not one of the best teams. That performance against Louisville was not enough to convince the committee, and the committee just had to put Alabama. I really thought that the committee, to me, the right thing to do would have been to put in the undefeated Power 5 champion, because that was how they were going about it this entire time. I also want to bring in like a scenario, like let's say we're in the BCS era, where two teams get in the national championship. There are two 13-0 teams and a 12-1 team. They're all Power 5 conference champions. One 13-0 team has their quarterback go down. They're not available. That 13-0 team is still going to get into the national championship because they have no blemish on their resume. Florida State could not really control who they played in their conference. They couldn't control as much that the ACC was crap. And they also went out and scheduled an SEC team. They played 2 SEC teams, Florida and LSU. Right now, yes, eye test says Alabama looks like the better team. But look what happened on Friday night in the Pac-12 championship game. Everyone, including me, said Georgia or Oregon looks like the better team. They went out, they lost to Washington, who everyone was doubting. I think, one of the panelists, Bugger McFarlane, I think, he was the only one that was agreeing with the point. And he was saying, hey, look, the eye test can't matter as much as what you do on the field. Football's not a beauty pageant. You went out and you got just the fact 13-0, and you can't have a chance to play for the national championship. If I'm Florida State right now, I'm furious. Personally, I hope either Texas or Washington wins, because it's going to be the cheaters versus Alabama, who frankly I think just got maybe put in because they're SEC, and this is a year that the SEC actually wasn't as tough. I also want to make another point. With strength, if they took in strength of schedule, which technically Alabama has a tougher strength of schedule compared to Florida State, they should have put maybe Washington at number 1. I want to double check, but Michigan was number 1. Let's see. Yeah, Michigan was number 1. Washington number 2, number 3 Texas. Now, frankly, I think these matchups are pretty interesting. Michigan and Alabama, that's going to be a really good matchup. And Washington and Texas in a Sugar Bowl, that's going to be really good. I think, honestly, for Washington, out of the teams that they wanted to match up against, Florida State would probably be their first choice. Maybe Texas is their second choice. I don't think they would want to match up against a Michigan team or an Alabama team or a Georgia team. Although they did show that they were a lot more physical than Oregon. That game I think one team from the start, Oregon, was not ready to play. They weren't ready, and they had to come from behind. And when Washington was resilient, that was it. That was it for Oregon. So Washington definitely deserves to be number 2. I think they're tied. So this is the 3rd time the Pac-12 gets into the playoff. Good for the Pac-12 to get into the playoff the last time that they are a conference. Oregon got into the playoff as the number 2 seed. I believe, let's see, in the very first playoff. And Washington had gotten in like 2016, I think, when they played Alabama and got smoked. I think this Texas matchup will be a really good matchup in the Sugar Bowl. I might give the edge to Texas, just because the Sugar Bowl is that's in Louisiana, right? I think that one's in Louisiana. And then Michigan, Alabama, that's going to be a really interesting matchup. If I'm Florida State again, I am very pissed. We have never seen, I don't think we've ever seen this before. A 13-0 Power 5 conference champion does not get a shot at a national championship, especially in the playoff era. Thinking back to last week's rankings, Florida State, I think they were number 4. Yeah, they were number 4. Washington was number 3. Georgia falls to number 6. Michigan moves up to number 1, which, okay, they went out, they shut out Iowa. That's understandable. I'm assuming Ohio State's probably number 7. They had a really outside chance. And even in the show, they were kind of trying to make it like Georgia had a chance. No, they didn't. But then again, I thought for sure they had to put in Florida State. But I guess this random rule, which we haven't really heard about a lot of evaluating if a key player is out. We haven't really heard about that before. Why didn't they bring that into consideration when Ohio State didn't have their quarterback? Interesting. Maybe it was because Ohio State completely blew the doors off. I'm talking about like 2014. Blew the doors off. I think it was Wisconsin. Why do I have all this knowledge in my head? I do not know. But that they blew the doors off them in the conference championship. Whereas Florida State, they really struggled against Louisville. And Louisville, they struggled mightily, only 6 points. Plummer is not that quarterback that could do it. But I think Florida State showed that they were possibly the best defense in the country, though. Holding the team to 6 points. Michigan, you're playing Iowa. I think almost all these top teams are going to shut out Iowa, honestly. I think almost all of them are. But this will be very interesting. Raw predictions. Michigan, I don't think Michigan likes this. You're playing an Alabama team who has been hot. They have been hot ever since that not ever since that loss, but ever since maybe they actually got it together and put their full trust in Jalen Milroe. Milroe's been getting better and better. Nick Saban just has Kirby Smart's number, at least in the championship games. So yeah, it's crazy. Georgia had won 29 straight games, number one basically all the way through, and then they fall off because they lose that one game, punish for a loss, and this is interesting. You punish Georgia so much from 1 to 6 because of a loss that happened yesterday. But you don't punish Alabama a lot. You punish them a little by not moving him to number 3. But this shows they're putting up the resume comparison. So I want to pause this right now. Resume comparison. For Alabama, strength of schedule rank is number 4. Strength of schedule, that doesn't make very much sense. Strength of record rank for Alabama is 4th. Strength of schedule rank for Alabama is 5th. They went 4-1 against top 25 teams. Their key wins are Georgia, Mississippi, and LSU. For Florida State, their strength of record is 3rd. But their strength of schedule is 55th. They went 3-0 against top 25 teams. They beat Louisville, LSU, and Clemson. So you have a bit of a, comparison there. They both beat LSU. And maybe they're looking at these key wins and saying that Georgia win is just so impressive. It is quite frankly impressive to beat a team that had won 29 straight games. Like Georgia, I thought for sure Georgia was winning the whole thing because they had just looked very good. They responded to a lot of tests on the road. And Alabama, this wasn't the best Alabama team. But they got away from a team like Ole Miss. They somehow got away from South Florida. Did the committee remember that Alabama was struggling against USF earlier in the season? Gotta take that in consideration. Just to me, I think this was the wrong call to put Florida State above Alabama, because you can say Alabama looks and you think that they are the better team, but they have not played on the field. When playing on the field, when playing 13 games, Florida State has not lost. Alabama has. I think it should be as simple as that. You know, this is a ranking. This isn't, who we think the best team is. Because if that were the case, why don't you put Georgia in? If that were the case, why don't you put Georgia in? Because we know, I think a lot of people think, yeah, Georgia could contend against Michigan, Washington, and Texas, and you give them another round with Alabama, they could beat them. This is about it's just a record thing, really. What comes down to it. You play your games. Do you win? Yes. Okay, you get in. Florida State did everything they could. The injury to Jordan Travis was beyond them. Could they have played better in that ACC championship game? Yeah, I suppose, but they were down to a third-string true freshman quarterback. They still got the win because the defense held up. I think that Florida State defense can shut down any offense, even your Washington offenses, your Texas offenses. I would have loved to see Florida State and Michigan. But I want to go to my top teams, and you'll kind of see what I was thinking last night. Let's go to my top teams. I thought this was very simple. Let's go ahead and share my screen. I think this was a very kind of simple deal here. You have your 3 undefeated Power 5 champions. One lost Texas, who has the head-to-head win over Alabama. Head-to-head. Then Ohio State, who lost to the number 1 team in the country, but didn't get to play in a national or in a conference championship game. And then Oregon, the best 2-loss team in the country. I think the committee just made the wrong decision. First of all, I think you maybe put Florida State to number 3, but it would have been understandable if you put them at number 4. But wow, they leave them out. So Alabama was number 8? What was their playoff rankings before? I think they were like number 8. They jumped from 8 to 4. Big jump for beating the number 1 team in the country, which is a good win. Let's see what Twitter has to say. Yeah, they decided to screw Florida State. Let's take a look at what Booger McFarland has to say, because I know he was adamant about putting Florida State in there. And this has got it, like, if you think about it, if this was not an SEC team, if this was maybe a Pac-12 team or a Big 12 team, even another SEC team that wasn't Alabama, LSU, or Georgia, I think the committee would leave him out. I think you have to put into consideration that this is Nick Saban. He's had a history of winning. You got to keep that. You got to keep that into consideration. Let me see if this can work here, and listen to what McFarland has to say, because I was listening before they revealed, and I was agreeing with Booger McFarland. If you guys are watching, leave down in the comments. If you're watching live, I'll also try to do a poll as well. Definitely leave it down in the comments. Let's see if we can listen. Okay, here, wait, let me make sure that, here we go. We'll put it there. Put this maybe up a little bit. And hopefully that will work for you guys.
Just gone with the undefeated Power 5 champ.
Well, I'm going to completely disagree with you. To me, this is a travesty to the sport. Because we go out there on the field and we play the game. And regardless of whether it looks good at the quarterback position, regardless of whether we win with offense, whether we win with defense, the name of the game is to win. And that's a reason never before has this not been done. winning a Power 5 conference, going undefeated, and not getting into the playoff. So I understand we.
And let me make another point. Because they had two options: to leave out a undefeated Power 5 conference champion or to leave out an SEC team. They left out the undefeated Power 5 champion over the SEC team. This is bad. Like, I don't agree with the committee's decision here at all. And you have a Florida State team. Who knows? They could have pulled a Ohio State. That was why the playoff was so cool to see, with Ohio State being, jumping in there because they won their conference championship. And this is, again, undefeated. Florida State it was beyond their control that Jordan Travis got injured. It was beyond their control that the ACC wasn't that great. They went out and they played and they beat all their teams. Alabama lost. Let's see what else McFarland has to say.
We want to look at style points and who are we going to get for the best matchups. But that's not what this is about. This is about understanding to get the 4 best teams. One team has a loss, and that's Alabama. One team doesn't in Florida State. And the fact that this committee could take a Power 5 conference champion that's undefeated. Those kids have went out there and busted their behind and not get into the playoff based on the eye test. Mind you, this is the same Alabama team who needed a prayer in Jordan Hare to beat an Auburn team that lost to New Mexico State. So that's really what has me.
Yeah. Also, let's take this into it. They almost lost to Auburn. They almost lost to USF. Alabama really throughout this season has looked really shaky. They won against Georgia, but they still lost against Texas. You can make the argument, say, hey, they went out and they scheduled Texas. Shouldn't that reward? But Florida State scheduled LSU, who LSU was in the top 10. In the top 10 in the preseason rankings. Okay? LSU might have been even higher than Texas. So Florida State being left out is really a sign that I think we need to somehow change this committee. If you've seen pictures online, this committee's just a bunch of old dudes sitting around like, what in the world? They got the best job too, and they screwed it up. You got the best job maybe in the world. You just get to watch college football for a living, and you just screwed it up. Man, I was gonna say something else, but now I'm forgetting. But Florida State. If I'm a Florida State fan right now, I am furious. We see what's trending. Let's see what's trending. Robbed. Florida State, Bama, and Rose Bowl. That, wow. Honestly. I want to, tweet real quick that we are live because I forgot to do that. Yeah. Florida State got robbed. Florida State deserved to be there. They won all their games. This has never happened before. And I'll say it again. I will say it again. The committee had a choice here. Leave out an undefeated Power 5 conference champion or leave out an SEC team. That simple. And they chose the former. And they chose, I think, the wrong decision. All these guys up here talking, the best team. But look, we literally had an example of eye test being wrong. Friday night, everyone said Oregon's going to win. because they have just looked better ever since that game. They went out, they played, and Washington won. They get rewarded. We don't know what the game... We can think that Alabama would beat Florida State. We can think that Florida State's not on the level of these other teams in the playoff, but we don't know. Florida State, they went out and played 13 games, won 13 games. Alabama went out, they played 13 games, lost one of them. It's simple as that. And I think this is honestly just bad for the sport. It's just bad for the sport. You look at the ramifications of this. Florida State could be 14-0 and not be a national champion. Not even have the chance to go to the national championship to play. Whereas you could have a one-loss Texas and a one-loss Alabama be crowned national champions. Think about that. Those guys had losses. Texas lost to Oklahoma, who lost to Kansas. And Florida State's over here won every single game. My goodness. I want to check. Let's check if they released the rest of the rankings, because another conversation is who's going to be that group of 5 team that gets a New Year's Six Bowl. It's up to Liberty and SMU, because SMU won their conference championship. They beat Tulane, I believe. College football playoff rankings. Let's see. This is the... so I want to take a look at this. The AP. The AP got it more right. Take a look at this. Let's share my screen. The AP actually got it right. They put Florida State number 4. They put him above Alabama. The AP got it right. The committee, the AP is maybe frankly a little better because it's journalists have been following the sport. These guys in the college football playoff committee, I think it's just all about money. It's just former coaches that have connections here and there. But are they, I think we should take into some serious consideration, are they the best for the job? Let's take a look at maybe what boosts. No, we have to go back to the college football playoff. Looking at the AP, looking at maybe boosts for Florida State. Florida State had that win against LSU. Alabama did too. Louisville is number 16. Okay. Louisville, really sad end to the season. They actually had, by week 11, 12, whatever, they had a chance. They were just one loss, and they lost their last 2 games. James Madison ranked. Good to see that. SMU up to number 17. Like, the AP actually kind of respects these group of 5 teams. I think this is interesting, though. SMU just 1 spot above Liberty. Liberty has had a very weak strength of schedule. And SMU, looking at... Here, not Louisville. Looking at SMU's, 2 losses. Let's go over and look at their 2 losses. I believe they lost to Power 5 teams. Yep. They lost to Oklahoma, and they lost to TCU. So, interesting. And let's compare. Let's actually do a little comparison. Liberty, you look at who they played, really not that great teams, honestly. Sam Houston, they barely beat Sam Houston. Just a lot of kind of stinker teams, honestly. But they did go 13-0. It'll be interesting to see. The committee has to back up what they did with Alabama. They have to put SMU in that New Year's Six, because if they put 13-0 Liberty and say, hey, Liberty's 13-0, they're complete hypocrites. They're already hypocrites, honestly. Let's see if The Athletic has got us set. I don't think all the rankings are in yet. I don't think they're in yet. It was just the top 6. So maybe we want to wait for that. Maybe I'll come back later. But Michigan's number 1. Honestly, Michigan, this is their best shot. Yeah, maybe last year was their best shot, honestly, but they would have had Georgia in the way too. Looking at this is their 3rd straight college football playoff. You can say that they're a dynasty, a cheating dynasty, maybe. I honestly, personally, for me, I either want Texas or Washington to win because those are newer teams. And it's Alabama, who's won it before, yeah, whatever, and they don't even really deserve to be in there. It should have been Florida State versus Michigan, who are cheaters. So I'd rather have Texas or Washington. So yeah, let's see what people are saying about this. No integrity here. This was not a correct ranking no matter how you look at it. 1 loss over undefeated. Yeah, it's simple as this. 1 loss over undefeated. They're both Power 5. It's not like Florida State is a group of 5 team. It would have even been understandable if maybe they ranked out like a 1-loss Alabama over a undefeated Cincinnati before they were in the Big 12, when they were in the American. This is Florida State. This is a big brand. This isn't even, a smaller brand football team. This is Florida State, conference champion. I can't express it enough. People are going to be roasting, I think. The AP, first of all, the AP poll got it more correct. The AP poll actually throughout has been more correct than this committee throughout the year. I just want to see what else people are saying. Yeah. Washington versus Texas is going to be good. Yeah, I gotta quote tweet this. But I want to. What do I? Here, let's go to just me at this point. I wonder when they're going to release the rest. The rest of the rankings, because I'd be interested in that and to see how they justify this, because they need to justify this a bit more. And I want to see the reaction of the committee leader. Horrible call, man. Horrible call. It was a selection of firsts. Either the first SEC team out or the first Power 5 undefeated conference champion. They took a conference which wasn't even the best conference this year. The best conference this year was the Pac-12. I think the Pac-12 was the best conference this year. Then you can make an argument of SEC versus Big Ten. They weren't the best conference this year, guys. Here we go. Let's, just looking at the 4 teams. Looking at the 4 teams here. Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama. Who's winning it all? The number 1 team, Michigan, I think should be the favorite. I'm really interested to see Texas and Washington. I think that will be a very interesting matchup. Washington seems to be playing their best when they play Oregon. They seem to be playing their best when they're playing when they're on the ropes, when they're playing a very good team like Oregon. They've had kind of stinkers against like Arizona State. It was a close one against Oregon State. It was a close one against Washington State. Texas, on the other hand, they've really handled everyone except the slip-up against Oklahoma. I think that will be a very interesting matchup. 2 high-powered offenses. Quinn Ewers kind of made it so that, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should return for another year. I think if Quinn Ewers goes out on top, wins a national championship, I think he'll probably declare for the draft. I don't really see any point in that. Maybe if he loses the semifinal, he might go back. That's another conversation. Arch Manning, should he transfer? Because now it's another year behind Quinn Ewers. It's more competition potentially of quarterbacks coming in there. But like looking over the matchups, Michigan, Alabama, very tough. I still think Michigan would get the win and finally go to a national championship. JJ McCarthy is very good. Blake Corum, as you see in the picture there, they really shut out Iowa. Left no doubt that maybe that they are the number one team, although I think you could make an argument that Washington is. That defense is there. They beat Ohio State for the third year in a row. And for the third year in a row, they're in the playoff. This is their highest ranking yet. This might be their best shot yet, honestly. Because I would take them over Washington and Texas, definitely. Honestly. So I'd take probably Michigan in a maybe 10-point win. But again, Alabama's very unpredictable. Because at one point they were scraping by against USF. The next point they're beating the 29-0 Georgia team in the SEC championship. They're crazy. Jalen Milroe might, I think he'll probably stay another year. Jalen Milroe might be a Heisman favorite next year. Also, Heisman conversation, I want to get into this too. It should be Michael Penix, people. This thing about Jaden Daniels should be it. Yeah, he's had better stats, but Michael Penix showed up in the clutch. Jaden Daniels didn't really do that as much. His defense sucks. Well, guess what? Washington's defense isn't the best either. It isn't Florida State's defense. It isn't maybe even Michigan's defense. It isn't maybe even Alabama's defense. Michael Penix showed up in the clutch, let his team down, resilient Washington team. Remember, they were up 20-3. Oregon came storming back. I think they went up 24-20 and took the lead. And I was thinking, oh, let's go. Oregon's actually going to win this thing. But Washington was more resilient, led by their leader, Michael Penix. I think he should get the Heisman, but it might just go to Jane Daniels, showing even more SEC biased. My goodness. Washington versus Texas, this is very unpredictable. Again, I might get the slight edge, like a 3-point edge. Although predicting 3-point games, you got to give it to Washington at this point. But maybe the slight edge, maybe the 2-point slight edge to Texas. Because it is closer to home for Texas. They've been on fire recently. But that's a real toss-up. A cool matchup would be Texas, Alabama, a rematch. This would be round 3 of Texas and Alabama, and a really, really cool matchup. But another cool matchup would be Michigan, Washington. All these combinations: Michigan versus Texas matchup, Michigan versus Washington matchup, Washington versus Alabama matchup, Texas versus Alabama matchup. All those are really good. So I want to see. Let's check if they've released this Power 5 or the rest of the college football playoff rankings. I want to see if who's that group of 5 team that gets to be in the bowls. They're still comparing resumes, it looks like. No. Okay, here, let's move on. Steve Sarkisian being interviewed. He's probably happy. Texas gets that number 3 slot. Again, for me, let's go back to I would have said Texas be number 4 because they have a loss. They lost to Oklahoma. Florida State doesn't have a loss. Yeah. Well, I don't know really what else to say except Florida State's been robbed. I'm interested to see maybe what other people are saying. So definitely, if you're catching like this on the replay or if you're in the live chat or whatever, definitely comment. Do you think the committee got it right? I don't think so. This was my top 8. They didn't do that. They switched number 3 Florida State and number 5 Alabama. But yeah, I think if this might take a long time, so maybe I'll do another reaction later. Yeah, I think I'm gonna peace out here. For you guys, this is 40 minutes already. Yeah, tell me what you guys think down below. Who won this thing, or who will win this thing? Did Florida State get robbed? Make sure to like and subscribe watching on YouTube, and also subscribe if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify. And yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Peace. Maybe be back later. See ya.